I built the fundraiser from scratch, poured $12,500 of my own savings in. He smiled in the spotlight, skimmed $28,600 from the donations, and blamed me when vendors started asking questions. Told the team don't include him, he's not part of the closeout. I was, and I brought slides. One by one, they watched the lie collapse. When I left the podium, he stood alone. But the real twist? He didn't just lose the crowd. He lost the center. They say family has your back. But when I checked the numbers, all I found was a knife. It was 7:52 p.m., 8 minutes before I was supposed to walk on stage and thank 200 donors for saving the place that raised me. 8 minutes before I was meant to smile, deliver a speech, and watch my brother take credit for a night built on my bones. I should have been nervous about public speaking, but all I could think about was the text glowing on my phone. Eric, don't bring this up tonight. You'll embarrass everyone. I stared at it. Let the words soak in like poison. Everyone didn't mean everyone. It meant him. I slipped my phone back into my pocket and gripped the flash drive in my hand like it was holy. On it, 46 pages of bank records, 3 doctored invoices, and 1 spreadsheet that didn't lie. This wasn't drama. This was theft. And it had my name on it. Let me back up. 3 months ago, my mom called me crying. Said the community center, the one our family started in 1996, was about to lose its lease. Rent had gone up. Grants had dried up. There were 2 months left on the clock and no money to keep the lights on. She said, Jonah, I don't want to lose it. That place raised you boys. I said, I'll handle it. I meant it. I pulled $12,500 out of my savings. That was my house fund. I was going to use it for a down payment on a 1-bedroom west of downtown. Nothing fancy, just peace. But I wired it to a banquet hall instead. Booked the caterers. Filed the 501c3 event paperwork. Set up the speakers, the invites, the branding. I designed the logo myself on Canva. I built the guest list from scratch. I did all of it for them. For us. And when Eric said he'd take care of the GoFundMe, I didn't flinch. Of course he would. He's the talker. The one people like on first impression. His Instagram had 40,000 followers. Mine had 300 and no profile pic. I was the worker. He was the face. It's always been like that. I should have known better. But it started with something small. A vendor email at 2:11 a.m. last week. The florist. Hey Jonah, just checking. Was payment ever sent for the arrangements? Haven't seen it yet. Strange. I remembered the budget line. Flowers, $1,300. Paid. Marked in green on the shared sheet. I messaged Eric. He said, don't worry about it. I got it covered. Probably just a processing delay. That didn't sit right. So I checked the donor account. The GoFundMe summary Eric had sent me said we'd raised $62,700. But when I logged into the backend myself, using the admin email from the original campaign setup, I saw something different. $91,300 raised. I blinked. Refreshed. Still there. Nearly $30,000 missing. That's when the unraveling started. Over the next 48 hours, I pulled every piece of financial history I could find. I cross-checked payout dates, matched them to emails, looked up vendor names. And what I found? April 17th, $8,000 sent to EJ Solutions. May 3rd, $4,500 labeled as transport reimbursement. May 18th, $15,700 wired to a consulting firm that didn't even have a functioning website. Every one of those transfers was authorized by Eric. Every one of them was unaccounted for on the spreadsheet. And then came the kicker. May 25th, a payment for a venue upgrade in the amount of $2,600. But the venue had already been paid. By me. With my personal funds. That's when it hit me. He wasn't just skimming. He was building the lie on my back. Every payment went through a shared business account we opened 3 years ago for a failed podcast idea. It still had both our names, which meant if anyone traced it, it looked like I did it. That's why he told the vendors to contact me. That's why the caterer looked confused when I asked for receipts. That's why the AV guy said, Eric said you were more of the emotional support type. He'd already rewritten the story. But not tonight. Tonight, I had 8 minutes to decide if I was going to be polite or free. And let me tell you something. I didn't spend $12,500 to be polite. I spent it for the truth. And the truth was going on that projector screen, whether he liked it or not. The funny thing about betrayal is it never comes from the outside. Strangers can't steal what you never gave them. But your brother? Your own blood? He doesn't just take the money. He takes the meaning behind it. The $12,500 I pulled from my savings account wasn't just money. It was years of saying no to vacations. It was coffee instead of dinner, renting instead of owning, fixing up the same laptop 5 times instead of replacing it. It was my future, and I gave it freely. Because mom asked. Because the center meant something. Because growing up, It was the one place in our neighborhood that stayed open after 6 p.m., where we could go to do homework, to escape the noise, to feel safe. I even remembered the first day we walked in. I was 10. Eric was 12. He wanted to leave. Said it was boring. I stayed. Sat at a plastic table with peeling red paint and solved a jigsaw puzzle with a volunteer named Mrs. Linda. She gave me a juice box and said, "You belong here." That was the first time I ever felt like I did. So when Mom said the lease was ending, I didn't think twice. I transferred the funds that night. No contracts. No promises. No backup plan. Just family. Just faith. I remember telling Eric, "Let's do something real with this. Let's remind people why we matter." He nodded like he meant it. He said, "You handle the groundwork. I'll build the hype." And I believed him. So while I chased permits, coordinated food vendors, called in favors from old donors, I watched Eric film Instagram reels and custom t-shirts that said, "Save the spot." I watched him go live from the center's front steps like a politician on campaign. His captions were poetic. "We don't rise alone, we rise together." And I shared every post. Because we were rising, right? But then came the warning signs I ignored. Like when the venue asked about a second payment I'd never heard of. Or when Eric said he'd restructured the donor tiers without telling me, and we suddenly had $1,000 level contributors I'd never met. Or when he told the AV team I wouldn't be handling soundcheck because I was overwhelmed. Overwhelmed? I'd been working 14-hour days and sleeping on donated couch cushions in the storage office to make sure every detail was perfect. I wasn't overwhelmed. I was overrun. And still, I kept going. I kept thinking, this is for the mission. This is for the community. This is for our parents. But the closer we got to the event, the more I saw it. That old shift in Eric's eyes. The one that always came before he took something that wasn't his and spun it into his narrative. The one I'd seen when he lied to Dad about who really crashed the Civic. When he claimed my volunteer hours on his college applications. When he whispered to our aunts at Thanksgiving that I struggled with direction while I was holding down 2 jobs. He always made me small to make himself shine. I just never expected him to do it with $28,600 of donor money. I printed out the bank statements on the 3rd day of digging. Sat there with a red pen like I was grading a test I already knew had failed. $8,000 to EJ Solutions, April 17th. $4,500 to transport reimbursements, May 3rd. $15,700 to Elite Consulting, May 18th. $2,600 venue upgrade, May 25th. All of it pulled from the GoFundMe. All of it sent through our old shared business account. And every one of those expenses was unverified, untouched, untold. He didn't even try to cover it well. He just assumed I'd be too loyal, too exhausted, too quiet to go looking. And I almost was. But then I remembered what he said the week we launched the campaign. If this works, it'll change everything. I don't think he meant the community. I think he meant himself. The lights behind the curtain flickered as they began prepping for the program. My name was on the agenda. Remarks by Jonah Calloway. They thought it was going to be a thank you. And it would be. But not for Eric. Not anymore. This time, I was going to thank the donors with the truth. With receipts. With everything he never thought I'd find. You always remember the first crack. Mine came on a Thursday night, 2 weeks before the event, while I was fixing a jammed copier in the back room of the community center. The place was chaos. Paint fumes in the hallway, chairs missing screws, and 3 different vendors texting me at once about setup dimensions. I hadn't eaten since breakfast. My back was killing me, but I was holding it all together. Then I got the text. 2:11 a.m. Florist. Hey Jonah, just circling back. Still haven't gotten payment for the centerpieces. Want to confirm before we prep the order. I frowned. That couldn't be right. I pulled up the shared budget spreadsheet Eric had sent me the week before. It was color-coded, very official looking. Line 24. Flowers, paid, $1,300. Green highlight. Check mark. Labeled cleared. So I replied, "You sure? It's marked paid on our end." She responded almost instantly. "Yeah, I sent 3 invoices. Still no funds. I can send the docs again if you want." I told her to go ahead. 5 minutes later, the PDFs hit my inbox. All of them were still marked unpaid. That's when my gut twisted. I checked the transaction list on the GoFundMe page. The public version Eric had sent me didn't show line item breakdowns, but I still had access to the original admin dashboard from when we launched it. I'd created it under our shared Gmail address. Eric must have forgotten. I logged in. Raised $91,300. That number hit me like a cold slap. Eric's last report said $62,700. Where the hell was the rest? I sat down on the floor right there in the copier room. My knees were shaking. Over $28,000 unaccounted for. I opened the withdrawal history. That's when the details started pouring in. April 17th, $8,000. Transfer to EJ Solutions. May 3rd, $4,500. Transport Logistics. May 18th, $15,700. Elite Consulting. May 25th, $2,600. Venue upgrade. Some had vague notes. Most didn't. None matched vendors I'd worked with. I called the Elite Consulting number listed on the May 18th line. Straight to voicemail. I looked up their business address. It was a mailbox in a strip mall in Newark, New Jersey. I looked up EJ Solutions. No website. Just a Wix splash page with an under construction banner. I messaged Eric. Me. Hey, what's EJ Solutions? Eric. Read 3:24 a.m. No reply. That silence said more than any excuse ever could. The next morning, I emailed myself a copy of every statement. Then I printed it all, hard copies, time-stamped. Because I knew what was coming. Eric wasn't going to own it. He never did. This wasn't just poor accounting. This was deliberate. And if I was right, if he'd used our shared business account to funnel the money, then it wasn't just theft. It was identity sabotage. Because my name was still on the LLC. Every dollar moved through that account pointed back to both of us. Which meant I wouldn't just lose the fundraiser. I'd lose my reputation, my license, maybe even my career. That's when the fear turned into fury. Because it was so clean, so calculated, so typical. He didn't forge documents or fake a break-in. He didn't hack my email or lock me out of anything. No, he just counted on me to stay quiet, to play the role I always played. The helpful brother, the one who never makes waves, the one who gets thanked at the bottom of a long speech after everyone claps for someone else. But not this time. That Thursday night, sitting on a stained floor between a broken copier and a flickering light bulb, I realized I had a choice. Either let this play out and be his scapegoat, or flip the script. And I wasn't going down with a speech in my pocket and a thief in the front row. I was going to make sure every person in that ballroom knew what he did. And the way I do it? On the one thing Eric always wanted control over. The mic. It took me 2 days to get Eric alone. Not because he was busy, because he was everywhere. Posting countdown graphics. Rehearsing speeches in the mirror. Taking calls on speakerphone like some low-rent mogul. He strutted around the community center like he was building a legacy. When I finally cornered him in the break room, he was pouring almond milk into a protein shake and humming. I said, "We need to talk." He didn't even look up. If it's about the raffle baskets, already handled. No, it's about the money. That got his attention. He turned, leaned on the counter, all smug. What money? I dropped a manila folder on the table between us. Inside, GoFundMe reports, flagged transactions, screenshots of the non-existent consulting firms, printed vendor complaints, and the transfer logs from our shared LLC account. I didn't say anything. I let the evidence speak. Eric flipped through the first few pages. Laughed. You printed this? You funneled donor money, I said. Nearly 30 grand. I traced the transfers. The bank account is registered under your name. He smiled wider, like I'd just told a joke. You're overreacting. You committed fraud. Stop being dramatic, Jonah. It's marketing. A few reimbursements, a couple boosts to make the event look polished. You wanted results. I got them. You lied to donors. You paid yourself with money raised for children's programs. His expression turned flat. You have no idea how this world works. People don't just give out of the goodness of their hearts. You have to grease the machine. Keep the optics clean. Invest in the narrative. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You're not investing, I said. You're stealing. And trying to pin it on me. He shrugged. You're on the paperwork. Your spreadsheet. Your signature. Your emails. There it was. Not just betrayal. A setup. He planned this. He made me the face of the campaign so he could hide behind my credibility. So when the money trail came into question, I'd be the one answering emails, sitting across from investigators, stuttering on camera while he vanished into a clean Instagram story. You know what's funny? He added, sipping his shake. I always thought you liked being behind the scenes. No pressure. Just the helpful brother. The quiet one. I stared at him, and I realized something terrifying. He meant it. He actually believed I was built to be stepped on. I stood up. I'm telling them, I said. The board. The donors. The guests. Mom. Everyone. He set the shake down slowly. You're gonna blow up your own fundraiser? I'm gonna save it. He stepped in close. His voice dropped. You do that, and you'll destroy this family. I didn't blink. You already did. He scoffed. No one's going to listen to you. You're a caseworker, not a hero. You'll sound bitter. Wounded. Like you're just trying to ruin my moment. I walked to the door. And right before I left, I said the line I'd been waiting a lifetime to say. You've had your moment. It's over. He called out as I walked away. Jonah, don't be stupid. You'll regret this. I didn't respond. Because I'd already spent 36 years regretting what I didn't say. Now I had evidence. Receipts. Motive. Timestamps. Bank accounts. And in 4 days, I had a microphone. The one thing he couldn't intercept. Because no matter how many Instagram reels he posted or emails he sent, he didn't own the truth. And I was going to drag it into the light, one slide at a time. The day before the fundraiser, I found the final nail. It was buried in an email thread labeled AV, Final Run of Show. I wasn't supposed to see it. But Eric made a mistake. Months ago, when we first started planning the event, we created a shared Gmail account to manage logistics. I handled contracts and legal files. He handled PR. After our split, I assumed he'd changed the password. He didn't. At 11:42 p.m., I logged in out of curiosity. What I found made my blood run cold. There it was, an email from Eric Calloway to the AV team. Subject: Final program update. Do not loop in Jonah. Timestamp: 2:43 p.m. Friday. Body: Please follow the new slide order attached. We've removed Jonah's version and will proceed with the curated visuals only. Also, remove any access permissions tied to his credentials. Do not forward this thread. Let's keep things clean. Attached was a revised version of the program. Gone were the transparency slides I'd uploaded into the shared deck. The donor accountability section had been stripped completely. My name had been removed from the final slide with a simple line in red. Jonah, omit from closeout. Keep speech to Eric only. He wasn't just stealing. He was erasing me. I stared at that line, read it again and again. Keep speech to Eric only. This was supposed to be my event. My sacrifice. My fight to save the place that kept us alive when our father left and our mother couldn't afford heat in December. And he thought he could cut me out with a single email. I wasn't even angry anymore. I was electric. I copied the entire email chain and saved it as a PDF. Then I opened the projector's remote access folder, set up for digital slide management from the green room. Still open. Still unsecured. I uploaded 3 files. Donor summary. Actual versus reported.pdf. May 18th wire transfer. $15,700. EJ-solutions.pdf. AV email. Do not loop in Jonah.pdf. I changed the name of the slideshow to Final Truth Deck. Play live. He wouldn't know until it started. That's the thing about narcissists. They don't check what they think they own. They don't expect resistance from the person they trained to stay silent. But I wasn't the Jonah who kept quiet during the Civic crash. I wasn't the Jonah who lied for him to mom. I wasn't the Jonah who let him take credit for the after-school mentorship program I designed from scratch. That Jonah was gone. This Jonah had spent 4 sleepless nights stacking facts like firewood. And tomorrow night, I was going to strike the match. 10:29 p.m., the night before the fundraiser. I texted one person. The AV tech. Me. Use file titled Final Truth Deck. Play live. It's mine. Please trust me. AV tech. Scene got it. No questions. No hesitation. Maybe he'd seen something in Eric too. The fake charisma. The empty charm. I closed my laptop, slid the flash drive into my pocket, and stared at my reflection in the window. I looked tired. Pale. My shirt was wrinkled. But I looked honest. And when you've been lied about long enough, the truth starts to feel like armor. The next time I'd see that projector light hit the screen, it would be mine. And the people Eric had fooled, they'd finally hear the other side. The real one. 8 p.m. sharp. The ballroom was full. 200 guests seated beneath string lights and gold-draped tables. A jazz trio played softly in the corner. Glasses clinked. Laughter echoed. To anyone watching, it looked like a celebration. But for me, it felt like a trial. I stood behind the curtain, flash drive in my pocket, heart pounding loud enough to drown out the music. The MC stepped up to the mic. And now, the man who made tonight possible. Let's hear it for Jonah Calloway. Applause. Loud. Respectful. Too polite to be real. Eric sat in the front row, grinning, relaxed. He thought he'd won. He didn't know I'd replaced the file. Didn't know I'd lined up every lie like dominoes. Didn't know I was done protecting him. I stepped out to the podium, adjusted the mic. Thank you, I said. My voice shook slightly, but not with fear. With power. I want to thank you all for coming tonight. For believing in this center. For believing in second chances. Slide 1 loaded behind me. A smiling photo of our mom and a group of neighborhood kids at the center, taken 20 years ago. But tonight, I continued, I also need to talk about something else. Something I never planned to say out loud. Murmurs. Slide 2. Donations raised versus dispersed. $91,300 raised / $62,700 reported. The room went quiet. I could feel the shift. Heads turned. Eyes narrowed. Slide 3. Line item transfers. April 17th. $8,000. EJ Solutions. May 3rd. $4,500. Unverified. Transport costs. May 18th. $15,700. Elite Consulting. Defunct business. I asked Eric about these, I said. He told me I was being dramatic, that I didn't understand how fundraisers work. Slide 4. A screenshot of the Elite Consulting website, 404 error. Then a new line of text. Business address, 120 Maple Street, mailbox rental store. The gasps were louder now. Eric shifted in his chair. Slide 5. The florist's invoice, unpaid. Slide 6. My Venmo transfer, $12, 500, labeled venue deposit, from J. Calloway. I emptied my savings to save this place, I said. Not for recognition, not for applause, but to protect what mattered. Pause. Breathe. And he tried to erase me from it entirely. Final slide, the email. Subject, do not loop in Jonah. From Eric Calloway. To AV team. Timestamp, 2:43 p.m. Silence. The kind that cuts. Eric stood. This is out of context, he snapped. He's twisting everything. I turned to him. No spin. Just your words. Your wire transfers. Your emails. He stepped toward the stage. You're blowing this up for what? Pity. No, I said, voice steady. For accountability. I looked out at the room. For every donor who trusted us. For every kid who comes through that center's doors. For every volunteer who gave their time. This isn't about drama. It's about truth. Eric opened his mouth again. But no one was listening. People were checking their phones. Reading the slides. Whispers turned into murmurs. Murmurs into judgment. I leaned into the mic, voice quieter now. I didn't come here to ruin the night. I came here to save what's still worth saving. Then I stepped down from the podium. Eric stood frozen. Isolated. Unmasked. I walked to the back of the ballroom. The applause didn't come right away. But it did come. Slow. Earnest. Rising. And this time, it was mine. No edits. No erasures. Just the sound of truth cutting through a room built on lies. 3 days after the fundraiser, I got a call from the city's neighborhood equity office. Mr. Calloway, the woman said, we'd like to discuss the community center's management status. There's been some movement. That was their way of saying, Eric's out. The board held an emergency vote the morning after the fundraiser. Turns out I wasn't the only one suspicious. 3 donors pulled their pledges until financial transparency was guaranteed. One of them forwarded my slides to a local nonprofit lawyer. Eric hadn't just lost face. He'd lost control. And suddenly, my phone stopped ringing with his number. No angry texts. No explanations. No guilt trip voice memos. He went silent in the exact way that guilty people do when they think silence might salvage dignity. It didn't. By Friday, the board had issued a public statement removing Eric from all operational roles, pending formal review. His name disappeared from the website, from the newsletters, from the brochures. All that was left was mine. But let me be clear. This wasn't revenge. This wasn't about finally getting the spotlight. This was about something more personal. It was about breathing clean air after years of secondhand smoke. About walking into the center without feeling like I had to apologize for being the one who actually did the work. About not flinching every time someone called me the quiet Calloway, like that was a weakness instead of a survival strategy. And for the first time in my adult life, I wasn't covering for him. Not emotionally. Not financially. Not with silence. I filed paperwork that Monday morning to rebrand the center under a new nonprofit. Second Chances Collective. Because that's what the center gave me. Not a redo. A rewrite. A second chance at being seen for what I really am, not who my brother pretended I was. I moved out of my shared apartment the next week. Signed a lease on a small, high-ceiling studio 2 blocks from the center. Still within walking distance. Still in the neighborhood. But now it was mine. There was no furniture at first. Just a mattress on the floor and a fold-out table where I placed a single thing. The flash drive. The one that held the slides. The one that changed everything. And every night, for a while, I'd stare at it before bed. Not out of bitterness, but as a reminder that I didn't need anyone's permission to speak. That keeping receipts isn't petty when people count on you to be quiet. You see, the worst part of betrayal isn't what they take. It's what you almost give up to keep the peace. But once I spoke, once I put the truth in the room, I realized something. I didn't lose family that night. I lost a liar. And I gained something much better. My name. Unedited. Unattached. Unmistakably mine. And the center? It didn't just survive. It started to matter again. Because for the first time in decades, the people running it weren't hiding anything. Especially not themselves.